If you're interested in learning how to knit, I have the perfect first project for you. Once you learn the basics of knitting, it's a fun, relaxing hobby. It feels good to see the beautiful colored yarn become a finished project. Today I'll be showing you how to make a dishcloth using the Grandma's Favorite pattern. It's a great way to practice the knit stitch. Even if this is all you learned, you'd be creating something useful every time. Here's what you'll need. The pattern. There are lots of variations online. I've linked to the one I'm using by Good Knit Kisses in the video description. The yarn. For dishcloths, cotton yarn is a must. It needs to be absorbent. This yarn is available at large retailers like Walmart and Meijer that have a yarn selection, as well as brick and mortar craft stores or online. The knitting needles. The yarn label will tell you the appropriate size needles to use. This yarn calls for a 7. I'm using circular needles, even though we're knitting back and forth. That way, when I set the project down, the stitches have a place to rest and I don't have to worry about losing a needle. You also will need scissors to cut the yarn and a yarn needle to weave in the ends. Getting your yarn onto your needle is called casting on. There are many ways to do that, and some of them can be very complicated. That's why I love this pattern. You could use a very simple cast on as well, and that's what I'm going to be using today. Knitting always starts with a slip knot, and here's how I make mine. I just make a loop, and then I take the tail and pull it up through the middle of that loop. And there's your slip knot. Trying to make a little bit longer tail. Okay. Now, I need to cast on 2 more stitches. So I'm going to be using the backward loop cast on, which is just the simplest you can do. You wrap the yarn around your thumb. There's 1 stitch and 2 stitches. That's simple. Now we're ready to start knitting. There are 4 parts to the knit stitch. In, around, under, and off. Let me demonstrate. In, you're going to put the needle in from the bottom across to make this cross. Around, you're going to take the working yarn, not the tail, make sure your tail's out of the way, around and down through the middle of the stitch. You're going to pull this yarn, this needle, and pull the yarn under, and now you've created a new stitch on this needle, so you'll just take that old stitch off. So it's in, around, under, and off. Let's try that one more time. In, around, under, and off. That makes our foundation chain. Now we're ready to start the pattern. And this pattern repeats and repeats and repeats. That's what makes it so simple. So to do the Grandma's Favorite, all you do is knit 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then you're going to do something called a yarn over, which is just wrap the yarn around the right hand stitch without knitting it. That's an increase stitch. Then you finish knitting the row. Okay. Once this needle's empty, this needle's full, you switch hands and do the same thing again. We're going to knit 2, so in, around, under and off, in, around, under and off, and then we're going to do the yarn over, wrap the yarn around. Then we're going to knit to the end of the row. That is the basic pattern. You're going to just keep going, keep going, keep going until Let me bring in my next dishcloth. You have 48 stitches. So once you have 48 stitches, here's where we started. These little holes are the yarn overs until you have 48 stitches. Now we're going to change the pattern up, and now we're going to knit one in, around, under, and off. Then we're going to knit 2 stitches together. This is the decrease stitch. It's just like knitting one, except that instead of just going through one stitch, you're going to, when you go in, you're going to go through both. So you go through 2 stitches, you still go around, you take that yarn under both and off. Then we're going to do the yarn over, and we're going to knit 2 again. And knit to the end of the row. So you're going to knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together. And then the rest is just like before. Knit all the way to the end of the row. Until you have 5 stitches left. So here's an almost completed project. For this row, I'm going to knit 1, situated here, knit 1, do our knit 2 together, and knit 2 together, and now I have 3 stitches left. Now I'm going to knit all 3 together, till I'm down to 1 stitch. You're going to clip your yarn, pull up the stitch, pull out your needle, pull the yarn through, and your project is completed. Now you'll take this yarn needle, thread these ends, sew them in so that they're no longer visible, and you have a dishcloth just like that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you'll give knitting a try. Please check the video description for all links to all the stitches that I've talked about here today. Thanks for watching.